There are so many good books out there, and it's easy to feel like there isn't enough time to read them all. Humanity has been writing great books for a very long time, and you're never going to catch up. But still, you might want to try and read more books, and that is what we are going to talk about today. How can you read more books? And specifically, how can you read more books without cheating? There's a lot of advice out there, especially on YouTube, about how to read more books, and a lot of it is pretty bad. Two common pieces of advice that I hear are that you should only read parts of books and then count that as having read the whole book, or that you should read or listen to book summaries and then say that that counts as reading an entire book as well. I think it's important to say that that's not the same as reading an entire book. So when I talk about reading a book, I'm talking about reading the whole thing from cover to cover. Another common piece of advice that you hear about reading more is learning to speed read. There are techniques that you could practice and eventually master to help you read faster. And if you read faster, you are going to be able to read more books, even if you're trying to read books from cover to cover, like I've said. But if you're going to read fast, you still need to make sure that you're reading well. And some of the most prominent techniques for speed reading are directly correlated with a lack of information retention. And I would say, especially if you're reading like a novel, it just isn't as fun. And if it means that I'm not going to learn as much and I'm not going to enjoy myself, then I don't really see the point in learning something like speed reading. Before we move on, I want to thank today's sponsor, Milanote. I'm getting ready to move into a bigger place, and one of the things that means is I'm going to have a proper office again. So I'm designing a room where I can read and write and even shoot YouTube videos. And that means I need a chair, a desk, some bookshelves. I need to have the right layout. And I've been using Milanote to brainstorm what I want that office to look like. I started by gathering inspiration, and with Milanote, I can just drag images onto my board and organize them. I can write notes, add links, and even embed videos. When you're browsing the internet, you can also use Milanote's web clipper to grab articles and photos easily. I was even reading some articles on interior design, taking some notes on them, and putting them onto my board. Milanote makes it simple to start a new project. There are over 100 built-in templates that you can use. I used one here for interior design, but you can also use this to brainstorm writing projects. Draw diagrams, write notes, do whatever you need to do before you actually start the process of writing. Or if you're writing a novel, you can use Milanote for storyboarding and outlining and creating character profiles. If you use my link down below to sign up, you can try Milanote for free, and there is no time limit. So if you use my link down below to sign up for Milanote, let me know what you think of it down in the comments. So fundamentally, there are two ways to read more books. You can either become a faster reader, or you can spend more time reading. And the good news is, by spending more time reading, you will be practicing and you will eventually become a faster reader anyways. Reading is a lot like working out. So when you start a new exercise program, one of the things that you're going to notice is that it's really difficult at first. Those first couple of days back at the gym are the hardest. You are going to feel weak and you're going to feel slow. And that's simply because you're not used to doing this. You're doing something new, and so you feel uncomfortable, and that means you can't do it for too long. So if you're someone who doesn't read very much currently, then it's going to be hard for you to just pick up a book and read for hours at a time. It's just like if you're trying to lift more weight to the gym, or if you want to run a marathon. You need to work on building those reading muscles. So start just by reading. You might even want to try timing yourself. See how long you can go before your attention starts to drift or before you stop enjoying yourself. Then the next time you read, try to read, but for just a little bit longer. If you do that regularly, then your ability to read for long periods of time is just going to grow and grow. And eventually you will be able to read for even hours while still enjoying yourself. And being able to read and focus on your books for long periods of time is the key to reading more books. What you're doing is developing your ability to focus. You are developing your attention. Unfortunately, everyone in the entire world is trying to get your attention. You get constant notifications. If you get even a little bit bored, you can check your phone. You could scroll on Twitter or find something to watch on YouTube. There are endless hours of podcast and music available. There's Netflix and Hulu and every other kind of streaming service. There are so many things that are competing for your attention. And so you need to find a way to be able to focus just on that book. So I suggest when you're trying to read, don't read on your phone. You should read a physical book, or you should read a device like a Kindle. And the nice thing about a Kindle, or really any other kind of e-reader, is that you can't get notifications. And while you're reading that book or reading your Kindle, silence every device that you have. Turn off your phone if you have to. Put it in another room. Just do whatever it takes to make it possible to focus on your book. If you're trying to build your reading habit, I think that a healthy minimum is reading for an hour a day. You might not think that you have an hour to read, but since you're watching a video on YouTube, I think you probably do. I didn't always read so much. When I decided that I wanted to read more books, I had to make some choices. So I stopped watching TV. I watch almost no movies. I play video games on my laptop like maybe once a month. I even deleted YouTube off my phone. And that's not because I hate YouTube. It's actually because I love YouTube. And if it's on my phone, I'm just going to watch it and I could spend that time reading instead. By finding that time to read, we're laying a foundation for that lifelong reading habit, which is going to help you read more books. And that's really the most important part of this video. If you want to read more books, you have to make time to read. But there are a few other tips that I want to share with you to help you read more books. First off, I like to read multiple books. Most of the people I know who read a lot of books do this too. Usually I'm juggling between 3 and 5 books, but I really think 3 books is the sweet spot. So right now I'm reading Moby Dick, a biography of the philosopher Hegel, and a historical fiction novel by Bernard Cornwell. And by the way, I recommend all 3 books. I think all 3 of them are great. So Moby Dick is a kind of a difficult novel. It's a classic for a reason, but it's dense and it's a bit more of a challenging read. It's certainly not as fun as some other books. I like to view books like this as an opportunity to challenge myself to read those books that are worth reading, but that take more work. For the Hegel biography, well, this is part of a larger project where I'm trying to read more German idealism. And this is the kind of book that you're going to study. So this is a book where I might take notes. If you're interested in how I take notes, by the way, there are other videos that I've made. I'll link those down below. This book, just like Moby Dick, require a lot of my attention and focus, and I usually need to be in the right environment to read these books. But the novel that I'm reading on my Kindle is a much lighter read. It's comparatively kind of the candy in my literary diet, and I can read that basically anywhere. That's why I often take my Kindle to work and I read on my lunch break or I read between meetings. I also like to read before bed, often for half an hour at least, and I usually read from my Kindle and read those lighter novels. By giving myself a few options to read, I am making it easy for myself to always choose reading as my source of entertainment or pleasure. I might not always feel like reading another page of Moby Dick, and in those cases, I'll go read something else for a little while, and then I'll return to Moby Dick when I'm ready. I also like to read in different formats. I don't read on a computer screen for 2 main reasons. It hurts my eyes, and it's too easy to get distracted. Reading a mix of physical books and books on my Kindle ends up being really helpful. My Kindle is very portable. I can read it on the go. My physical books are usually tied more to my desk or to a comfortable chair. And like I said, I can take my Kindle to work and I can read it on my lunch break, which is going to help me maybe get another 30 minutes of reading in every single day. And as a final note, you should only take notes on your book when you need to. Taking notes is a lot of work and it takes time. And so I only take notes on books when I know that I really need to retain the information or when I know I'm going to use it for a project like a video or a piece of writing. So I actually don't take notes on the majority of the books that I read. If I did, my reading pace would be significantly slowed and I would read fewer books every year. Note-taking is a valuable practice, but if you're taking notes, you're going to read fewer books. So keep that in mind.